Welcome to the Boxing Gossip channel. Many thanks as always for tuning in. First and foremost, let me start this video giving a quick thank you to my man Nathan, who was kind enough to send me this link. I'm referring in this video to an article posted on boxingnews24.com. The article's headline is "Truax says Degale rematch in March or April." The article is written by Jeff Arano. Caleb Truax says he could be defending his IBF super middleweight title against former champion James Degale in a rematch in March or April. Truax will find out for sure when or if the rematch with the 31-year-old Degale will be taking place. Truax beat Degale by 12-round majority decision. Yada yada yada. So, first and foremost, boxing in the first quarter or the first 4 or 5 months of 2018 is going to be crazy. I mean, look ahead to that schedule that we've got. Add another big London card with James Degale on it. It's really going to be a busy time in the sport of boxing. Am I surprised that this rematch is looking like it's going to happen? Not really. From James Degale's side, it's kind of the only fight for him to take. His legend's been a bit damaged by that fight. And really, it's kind of hard to sell him in a fight with anyone else until he's written that wrong. From Caleb Truax's perspective, well, a lot of the other big money fighters in that division are tied up by the World Boxing Super Series. And from Truax's perspective, this is a very winnable fight. He's gone and beaten James Degale and beat him well by my money in the first fight. And there won't be any reason to think that there'd be a different result second time round. I mean, Degale's 31. He's not getting any younger. He's not going to improve massively. He's had injuries in his career, several injuries. And we've got every reason to doubt that James Degale is going to resurrect himself at this stage. Look, when I initially thought about this rematch, I kind of thought James Degale would probably win. I kind of thought that the first fight was relatively close. A few of the rounds were quite competitive, and whilst Truax clearly won, James Degale, as we know, historically has been the classier fighter, and if he could make 1 or 2 minor adjustments, he could be stealing a lot of those rounds off Truax. And I kind of always thought that Degale would watch the tapes back, see where he went wrong, and he'd still have the tools in his arsenal to rectify those mistakes. So initially, when the fight was first talked about as a rematch, I made Degale a big favourite. The more I thought about it, I actually see it as a very even fight, and a fight that Truax could well remain victorious again. For a start, Truax did a really good job in the first fight. He came up with a game plan. He applied his game plan very effectively. He had Degale very hurt in the fight, and for me, he definitely did enough. Now, as I've said already in this video, Degale is not a fighter who is getting any younger. Degale is a highly experienced fighter. And if at this stage, he's not making those adjustments mid-fight, you have to question whether he'll make those adjustments at all. Degale didn't lose that fight because of lack of experience or because of greenness. He lost it because he was the worst man on the night. And, he blamed it afterwards on an injury and that he dropped back too soon. Well, I don't really have confidence that a rematch with Caleb Truax in March has given him enough time to really go back to the drawing board and assess things if that's something that does happen. So the more I think about it, the more I think of it as a 50-50 fight. But then we've also got to factor in that really Degale edging this fight and winning 7 out of 12 rounds just isn't good enough, is it? I mean, let's face it, if Degale comes back and outpoints Caleb Truax 115-113, his career is still over. Nobody's going to be saying, oh, let's chuck him in with Eubank now, or he's proven he can win 7 rounds against Caleb Truax. James Degale is back. I want to be paying James Degale pay-per-views. I want to be buying James Degale tickets. James Degale has got to come back and absolutely smash Caleb Truax out of the park. He's got to come back, put on a devastating display, and knock him out early and hard, because Degale is in this sport, I detect, for the big money paydays, for the big pay-per-view events. He's in for the massive fights against Groves, the massive fights against Eubank, those sort of matchups. And, no one's going to want to fund those events, either through ticket sales, pay-per-view sales, etc., if he sneaks past Caleb Truax. No one will buy into James Degale as a elite fighter again if he narrowly outpoints Caleb Truax. You know, he's got to go out there and, you know, smash Truax out of the park. He really does. And you just wonder if that James Degale is still there. I mean, someone commented on my video the other day talking about how few knockouts James Degale had actually scored in the last 3 or 4 years. And you know, that's a fair comment. You know, he has been winning fights by points, and there was just a tentativeness about him in that Truax fight. You know, when he was doing well, when he was landing punches, he couldn't force home his advantage. You know, he'd land a good shot, and then he'd back off. You know, he wouldn't put the pedal to the metal. He wouldn't really try and force home his advantage. You know, he was timid. He was nervous. He kept being positioned against the ropes. He kept being bullied by the guy who'd come up from middleweight. You know, and you kind of wonder. You look back at that Badu Jack fight. Was that January 2017? I think it probably was. And you wonder, was that the kind of fight that broke Degale? Did that fight take away the top 20% of James Degale? That was a brutal blood and guts war. That was a that was a hard fight. That was the kind of fight that people talk about where careers are cut short. And, you know, James Degale had that against a guy in Badu Jack who has now moved up to 175 pounds and, you know, has shown himself to be a true force to be reckoned with. You know, in hindsight, that draw from James Degale was an extremely credible performance, but maybe that performance took something out of him. Maybe he had to put it all on the line and a bit more in order to escape that fight with a draw. And, you know, maybe that's left him a shell of himself. Maybe the injuries he suffered and the broken teeth that were famously photographed after the fight, maybe that's damaged him a bit. I don't know. But for me, the James Degale I saw in the ring with Truax had lost a lot of the swagger, a lot of the confidence, a lot of the belief. And he was a timid fighter. He was a nervous fighter. And he was a fighter who, you know, was beaten by, you know, someone who isn't a top 10 super middleweight, in my opinion. You know, I've seen a lot of people saying James Degale was overconfident and James Degale was over arrogant. And certainly he gives off that impression on the way into a fight. But for me, whilst in the ring, he didn't look like an overconfident guy. I mean, maybe he overlooked Caleb Truax and didn't train as hard as he could. But he looked in very good nick to me. Physically, he looked in great shape. And I just think the way he fought that fight was a bit indicative of a guy who was maybe approaching being a shot fighter. And we've talked before on this channel that his speech appears, at least to my eye, and at least to one other guy on my podcast eye, to starting to become a bit slurred. And you just wonder if the long boxing career, it's a long time since he won that Olympic gold medal, you know. Long time ago, and it's been some tough fights along the way. Has it started to take it out of James Degale? So, look, this rematch looks like being confirmed. If you want to believe the article on BoxingNews24.com, it appears that we are going to be live for March or April. Interesting to see which promoter it's with. Interesting to see what venue it's with. Interesting to see what the date is, because the rumours are that Joshua Parker is going to be late March. Obviously, David Haye Bellew is in May. You got Kell Brooks return. You got Okoli, Isaac Chamberlain. You've got all of those World Boxing Super Series fights, Groves and Eubank. So they're going to have to pick a week very carefully for this fight, because despite the fact it's a rematch, etc., it probably is a smaller fight than those fights that I've just mentioned. But, you know, it could be a 50-50. And going into this fight, it's going to be one of those where I'm not really sure I'm going to know who the winner is. Let me know your thoughts. Is Degale coming back too soon? You know, having said that he lost the first fight because he rushed back too quickly, would a rematch in March or April be the same mistake over and over again? Can James Degale rectify his career? Was that loss a product of the injury? Was that loss a product of overlooking his opponent, not training hard enough? Or are you kind of the mind that, like me, that loss was possibly because James Degale is no longer the James Degale that we all knew? And James Degale has lost a step. Maybe because he's 31, maybe because of the Badu Jack fight. Who knows? Let me know your thoughts on this. And if you were a bookmaker, how would you be pricing up that rematch? That's a tough fight to rematch. To price. I expect Degale starts as an odds-on favourite, but you know, they won't want to be offering 4, 5, 6 to 1 on Caleb Truax after that last fight. I would be surprised anyway. Let me know your thoughts on this fight, people. Is it one you're looking forward to? Leave your comments in the section below. As ever, if you've enjoyed the content, please hit the thumbs up button. which means I can get a bit more visibility to my channel from people who haven't yet discovered us. And if you're new or you haven't done so before, for whatever reason, please do press subscribe. Other than that, you can also give us a follow on Twitter at Boxing Gossip, and a link to my Facebook and to my Patreon is in the description below. Many thanks for tuning in as always. I appreciate it, guys.